It's 2016, and the Cartoon Network YouTube channel just released a pilot to a show called Infinity Train. But this show isn't like your regular Cartoon Network show. It's very interesting. It has very interesting mystery elements, and its humor is great. But it also has a freaking killer robot. Infinity Train pilot became a huge success, getting a ton of views. And in 2019, the show finally came out. And wow, this show was insanely good. So good, in fact. That's why I'm making this video. So let's not waste any more time and get right into this review. The Grid Car. It does an amazing job of showing off its main character Tulip to the audience. Tulip is a mostly normal kid. She likes onions a bit too much, and she's going to a game design camp. We also find out that she's young with her parents going through a divorce, and she's very touchy about the topic. She finds that she'll miss the game design camp because her father messed up the dates. They even signed a contract for her and everything, so it was pretty serious. Tulip starts to break down, and she takes out her anger on her mother. She's angry at her parents, and she obviously is not taking their divorce well. This anger she has built up inside of her leads her to go to the game design camp by herself. She packs her things and runs away to the game design camp. She ends up in a forest and finds this train with glowing windows as the name of her town of the game design camp she is going to, so she gets onto the train. Then, she wakes up in a snowy place and thinks she hallucinated, until she accidentally finds this weird little robot named 11. 11 is a very lovable robot, and the first thing he does is ask Tulip if Tulip is his mom, but she replies with no. Tulip then exits the train car to find out, whoa, she's actually stuck on the train. But not just any train, a train that is massive. A train is out in the middle of nowhere, and a train that never ends. She gets really excited that there's a train that is this big, and she goes into another car to explore, and she has a lot of fun there. She has some fun and then notices this weird number on her hand, which she appropriately freaks out. She goes outside and notices this one person getting sucked into this weird yellow thing that explodes on the ground, and she is really freaked out by that. Then she tries to get off the train and go down to the ground, but these weird cockroach things start chasing her. These things end up following her to the train car she goes to, and these things are sucking her life energy from her. Luckily, she's protected by this house that 11 built for her. She realizes that this train is not safe, and she makes the wrong moves. She could die here. She tries to put things together and realizes that trains have conductors, so it is now her goal to try and find the conductor with 11's help. The first episode of Infinity Train does a perfect job of introducing its main character and her struggles. She's a kid who is going through a lot, but she is rather selfish, and now she's stuck in this mysterious train with a number on her hand with a talking robot. This is very intriguing, and the thing I love about the first season of Infinity Train is its mystery. We have no idea why Tulip has a number, nor do we know what it means, and seeing all the crazy stuff that's on this train, and all of it really has to offer, makes it seem like a life or death setting. Also, 11 is an awesome character, and I love him. We don't know why 11's here, and he kind of relies as a comic relief throughout the season and through the series, and he is a pretty cool character. Episode 1 of Infinity Train is probably the best first episode of a show I have ever seen, and is only up from here. So let's cover episode 2. The Beach Car. I always seem to forget how good this episode is. The episode starts with a time skip. In fact, almost every episode of the series has a little time skip. It's nothing huge, but we don't get to see every car Tulip gets to go through on her journey throughout the train. In the start of the episode, we get to see Tulip and 11 bonding. Tulip is having a hard time with 11 being a little annoyed at him because 11 is a little hard to handle sometimes. Tulip starts talking to 11 about a good memory she had when she notices her number goes down. She starts freaking out because she has no idea what is going on. 11 tells her that she will die if her number goes to 0. She goes on to another train car and sees this cat selling a donut holder, which is just a pipe with a fancy name. This cat returns in every season of Infinity Train and is pretty much always up there on people's top 10 Infinity Train characters list. In season 3, her name's revealed, which I don't really think it's much of a spoiler because it's just a name, so her name is Samantha. Samantha mentions to her soon-to-be work partner, Randall, that this donut holder is the only one certified by her acquaintance, the conductor. Tulip rushes to Samantha, telling her that if she doesn't get to the conductor, the number on her hand will kill her. Samantha tells Tulip to slow down and talks about how 1-1 isn't entirely reliable. After realizing this, Tulip is rightfully upset at 1-1 for making her think that she was gonna die. Samantha tells Tulip that the conductor would be very sympathetic to her situation. If Tulip could fix her shuttlecraft, she could go and get the conductor for her. But she'll need Tulip to pay her because she'll be missing out on a lot of sales while she's going to the conductor for her. She says that 1-1 would be that form of payment for her. Tulip isn't sure at first, but out of desperation, she agrees to give Samantha 1-1 as a form of payment. Then we get to see Tulip fixing Samantha's shuttlecraft, and 1-1 is asking Tulip questions about her. He asks Tulip why is she named Tulip. She says the reason she was named Tulip is because she had some sort of breathing issues as a baby and she bounced back like a perennial flower. 1-1 gets Tulip a flower and says it's her, but then she corrects him and says that it's just a daisy. It was very sweet of 1-1, and it's honestly a really nice scene. Tulip then notices one part that is needed for Samantha's shuttlecraft. They end up going to an underwater shop that has the earpiece, but the person that's selling it only wants the daisy in Tulip's hair for it. So Tulip hesitantly gives up the daisy, which crushes 1-1's heart. Then the time comes to give up 1-1 to Samantha. Tulip tells 1-1 that he'll be with Samantha now. 1-1 is upset, but he understands. Then, after seeing 1-1 say goodbye forever, the guilt starts to sink in for Tulip. Tulip starts talking to Randall because he's the only one there about how she feels bad about giving away 1-1. She said she only did it out of desperation, but when she realizes that the cat probably doesn't have 1-1's best interest, she has to do something about it. She agrees to take Randall's donut holder in exchange for a ride to get to the cat. Randall agrees, and before they go after the cat, Tulip goes back for the daisy and gives the Randall gum, which is a pretty good trade if you ask me. They end up finding Samantha and chasing after her. Randall slips into the cracks and they wreck her shuttlecraft. Samantha tells Tulip she made a big mistake. Then she leaves. Tulip tells 1-1 that she is sorry for giving him to Samantha, and that she only did it because she was scared and she thought she wouldn't ever get off this train. 1-1 forgives her and the episode ends. Another great episode from Infinity Train, which shouldn't be a shocker. I love how they are already like 1-1 in Tulip's relationship, only in the second episode. Now is a good time to point out that Infinity Train is a miniseries, which is another way to say it's only 10 minutes per episode and only has 10 episodes. This in no way harms Infinity Train. It honestly works really well for the show, and I have never had a problem with it. The little time they have per episode makes it even more impressive how they can make these characters super amazing. I really love how Tulip is flawed and makes a big selfish mistake in this episode. I love how innocent 1-1 is here. He's just so precious and kind. I also love how Samantha takes advantage of Tulip's situation. And already we have really good characters. In most shows, first 2 episodes are usually the worst of a show because they're finding out what to do with their show. But not Infinity Train. The show knows what it's doing, and I love it. Also, the little details in this episode, I love how Tulip goes back for the daisy because she knows that that'll make 1-1 happy. It is ultimately useless, but it still shows that she cares, and I love that. Well, that was episode 2, so let's go on to the 3rd episode. The Corgi Car. Now, the Corgi Car is where most of the pilot actually takes place, so for most fans of Infinity Train, they already knew it was going to happen for most of the episode. Honestly, this fits in really well for Infinity Train's 3rd episode, and it doesn't feel like a random episode just thrown in there. Anyway, into the episode. It starts with Tulip not wanting to stop for anything. She wants off the train as soon as possible, but this leads to her being out of breath, and she is in this car full of corgis. We get to meet a really fun character throughout the show. Atticus, the king of Corginia. Atticus ends up giving the Torginia of Corginia to Tulip and 1-1. We get a ton of good dog jokes in this episode. We also get to see these dogs living in a paradise. They got belly rub machines, they got giant food and water bowls. They also have toys and they can talk. What else is there for a dog to want? I don't think anything personally.
How many dogs are there in Corginia?
We're 400 strong and 399 cute. Just don't tell that to ugly Irwin.
That dog deserves so much better. Also, while there, Sad One ends up scaring this dog. Why is the Corgi Car so gosh darn mean? Then there's this weird shadow monster that makes the water go crazy. They all head to the temple to hide from the monster. Atticus tells Tulip that there are things that he hasn't told her about Corginia. He talks about how the monster has been attacking the city. Tulip says they should attack the monster, but Atticus says if they were to do so, they would all drown because the water is 2 feet deep. 1-1 goes to see if it's safe and accidentally scaring everyone by screaming. It is safe to go though. Then we get a pretty funny dog joke about going outside. Then we see this part of Corginia covered in water. Atticus says it happened a week ago. Tulip says that she's been on the train for a week, and maybe the water rising has something to do with her number. Atticus has Tulip take him with her so that way he can help defeat the monster and solve the unsolvable puzzle door. And then we get this little montage. In this montage, we can see the sun glitching out. I missed this the 2 times I watched Infinity Train prior to this video, so I feel like I would mention it. They end up going to the monster's place to find the water monster, and it was just a spider on a weird orb with light. Atticus kills the spider to get victory for his people, but the water level doesn't go down. After the monster is dead, and Tulip's number doesn't go down either, this leads to her to have a breakdown, being frustrated of being on the train, and the fact that she could be there for years before she escapes makes her angry and sad. Atticus talks to Tulip to help her out. Then, she questions why was there an orb in the first place? It's not like the spider was making the water rise. Then they find this robot taking out orbs that hold the environment. 1-1 being 1-1 just thinks to go say hi to the robot, which he does, and then the robot starts shooting at them. Atticus attacks it, but is hit. Tulip runs and hits the robot with the door to reveal inside of the machine. It's almost like someone could fit in there, it's really cool. Atticus then puts an orb back that stops Corginia from flooding. The robot has Tulip, then it sees 1-1 and runs away. Very interesting why this robot ran away from 1-1. I wonder why that is. Then, Tulip notices her number going down. 1-1 asks if that's a good thing. Tulip says it's okay she doesn't know for now. Then, Atticus says that he's gonna join Tulip on her journey so that way he can defeat the monster so it doesn't attack Corginia again. And then, the episode ends. Episode 3 is once again awesome. I absolutely love the killer robot at the end. Yeah, I had no idea really what to expect the first time watching this, but I definitely did not expect a killer robot. That was just an awesome inclusion. Well, let's go on to episode 4, also known as the most skippable one, the Crystal Car. The Crystal Car, also known as the episode I always skip. It's not a bad episode in any way, just not a ton happens in the episode. There are a ton of good jokes and it's entertaining, and at the end, Tulip's number goes down, so it's still worth watching. But all they do is sing songs. Tulip builds a ladder to the door, and then the door is locked. Then Tulip has to sing a song that means something to her, which she does, and then this big guy comes and unlocks the door, and the episode's end. So, yeah, it's still a good episode, but I don't have too much to say about it, honestly. The Cat's Car. Oh boy, how do I even describe this episode? Well, I'll do my best. The episode starts with the train car moving in front of Tulip and the gang. Since they have no choice, they go inside of it. Then we find out it's Samantha's car. Atticus gets to meet Samantha for the first time here, and he is not a fan. Tulip is having none of Samantha's antics, so she heads to the door. But Samantha knocks this thing down that looks like some sort of tape that has Tulip's name on it. Samantha asks Tulip to pick it up because no thumbs. Then she suggests that she plays the tape in the tape player. Then Samantha picks up the tape and puts it in. How in the world did you do that? After Tulip sits down to look at the tape, it sucks her into this white void. Most YouTubers end up there at one point. But one weird thing about this white void is that there's a TV static that gets closer. And then it shows some of Tulip's memories. One of them is on a road trip. And there's this Dolphin World place. And then we get this one where Atticus and 1-1 are on TV. Okay, something is up with this. That's already a dead giveaway that these memories might be tinkered with. Then we see past Tulip by the couch with her mouth open for some reason. Then we see Tulip's parents celebrating her for being super smart, and they are wearing a Family Forever shirt. That's just sad. I feel really bad. And Tulip realizes that this is all too good to be true. Then her mom becomes the killer robot, and her dad is apparently a giraffe. Then all this TV static starts climbing up Tulip's body, which is pretty scary. And Tulip is forced to accept her real memories. This means no dolphin pyramid, no Atticus and 1-1. Apparently she was tucking her down the couch here, which is honestly really sweet of her. But then we have to see her face the thing she has been running away from this whole time. Her parents getting a divorce. And boy, don't they make them look terrifying when they tell her this. Like, good grief, this is scary. They even have this dog from Corginia. I cannot believe they actually brought this joke back, that's awesome. Once the real memory of her parents getting divorced starts to replay, she describes the way she felt in those moments, and that was really cool to see. The writing is really well done in this scene, and it's one of my favorite moments in the whole entire show. Tulip then realizes that she was the one in fact changing her memories, and she is spit out of the white void. When she comes back, Samantha is surprised that Tulip is still there. She thought she would have enough time for something she needed Tulip for. Tulip is rightfully mad at Samantha, and Samantha is saying everything she can to try to get her to stay. She mentions that her number is going down, but Tulip does not care. In fact, she puts a glove on her hand so she isn't tempted to look at her number. And then, she, Atticus, and 1-1 leave the cat's car. The moment Tulip leaves, Samantha dashes for her tape here, and then her car instantly gets picked up, and then we see the killer robot here, and oh, things kind of got serious here. The killer robot here was about to live up to its name until Samantha says that she needs one more chance to get them, and she is given one.
Do not fail again.
No, no!
Well, that was freaking terrifying. Yeah, the show lets you know that the big threat is an actual big deal and can do a lot of damage. I would definitely not want to be on the wrong side of that robot. We're only halfway through the series, and basically every single episode except for one has been one of the best things I've ever seen. I cannot wait to see what the next one offers. This episode is one of the best in the entire season. That is a fact, and definitely not an opinion of mine. The episode starts with them entering the unfinished car. Gravity is wacky. Some houses don't even have walls, and this is all hard to process for 1-1. He even says that he broke the car, which is strange because obviously he didn't. Atticus gets to meet the king of the unfinished car, Aloysius III. Since Atticus probably never left the Corgi Car prior to this, he probably never met any other royalty, so Atticus spends some time with Aloysius. Aloysius shows them the door because Tulip really wants to get out of there. But 1-1 jumps out of Tulip's arm and starts organizing bricks. There's a ton of stuff in this car that is, well, not normal to us, like this jelly slide and this hole in the ground. This is all just really strange, and 1-1 is very bothered by all of this. So Tulip agrees to help 1-1, so she starts to clean the place up. They cover the hole and clean the jelly, and 1-1 fixes a wall. After this, Tulip meets back at the door so they can exit, but Atticus and 1-1 aren't there. So she goes back looking for them, and then she sees that they accidentally messed up a whole society. Then the sky becomes a whole lot darker and the car starts flying in the air, and it turns out 1-1 has removed these orbs and the whole car is falling apart. So Tulip goes after 1-1, dodging some flying objects. And then she finally gets to 1-1 and...
Pink was Tulip. I'm putting it where it's supposed to be. If they knew it was broken, they would have fixed it. They don't need to worry anymore. I'm here to get things back in order.
Yeah, 1-1 has gotten a little bit psycho. He thinks it's all his fault that this car is broken. He's trying his best to fix it. But Tulip tells him that it's not his fault, it's just the way it is and he can't keep trying to fix it because all he's doing is breaking the world. 1-1 then puts the orb back that controls gravity, and Tulip and 1-1 go and apologize. Atticus says that his response team could help fix the car, so they have a deal, and they leave the car. But then after passing through the door, 1-1 kind of does a little reboot thing and reintroduces himself. And then the episode ends. This episode, while they didn't have a whole lot to say about it, I really do love that this episode has 1-1 go full-on psychopath. It is really cool to see. And it makes you wonder, why does he even think this is his fault to begin with? It's not like he controls this stuff. So, it brings up a lot more questions that we do not get the answer to, for a while at least. Also, the weird thing about this one is that there's this weird thing on the door here, and I'm not exactly too sure what it's for. I originally thought that this thing was here to reset 1-1, but no, it's not, because it shows up later in the series. And it's just a really weird thing that really doesn't show up later in the whole entire show. Just one more episode. It's kind of cool looking, but I don't know. I found it kind of weird. But either way, it's neat to add to the lore of the train. Alright, on to probably people's favorite episode, at least what I would think most people's favorite episode would be. This episode is awesome, mainly for the stuff it sets up in Book 2. At the time, Finiture was supposed to be this one-season show, so people had no idea there were even plans for a book 2. But after the finale for the series, they announced a second season, and it was pretty much equal the hype level as this moment right here. Nobody except for the people working on the show knew that book 2 would even be a thing, or what it would even be about. But now we know that the Chrome Car introduces us to the main character for book 2. Let's get into the Chrome Car episode. The episode starts with Tulip getting this little tool she has to cut candy out of Atticus's hair. I promise, that part is important. Then they enter this car with a bunch of mirrors. Then Tulip gets to the door and it won't open. Then she looks down, her reflection appears to be mad at her. Then her reflection starts talking to her and explains how to open the door. They must swap places, so they both have to step onto each other's foot at the same time to swap. After they do that, Tulip goes to the place called the Mirror World. While Mirror Tulip, I guess MT for short, is now in the Prime World, and she's all chrome-like. MT and Tulip work together to open the door. Wow, this is a great shot. Tulip then asks, how do they switch back? And MT, plot twist, won't let her back. MT doesn't have to be Tulip, and now she can live her own life. She can finally do all the things she's always wanted to do, and she is super excited about it. Tulip, not wanting to be stuck in the mirror dimension forever, realizes that if her reflection is a person, that means that Atticus and 1-1's reflections must be beings too. She talks to them, and Mirror Atticus is very skittish because all Atticus has done is bark at him, and Mirror 1-1 called the Reflection Enforcement on MT. Mirror 1-1 kind of sounds a lot like 1 from book 4. Oh shoot, wrong book, spoiler. Then they arrive and cop-like figures appear out of a car. They ask Tulip if Tulip is Tulip Prime, which she says yes. Then they say they can't have a sliver running around the Prime World. To explain, a sliver is a cracked reflection, which basically means a rogue reflection. Then they tell Tulip if her reflection doesn't turn herself in, they are going to send her down to a pile of nothing. Tulip obviously doesn't want this, but they stuff Tulip in the back of a van. While they are driving, Tulip takes out her tools she had at the beginning of the episode and gets out. Then she starts running. The guy with the hat tells his partner to suit up because they are going to the Prime World. And oh my gosh, these guys' head is just like an actual ball joint on a toy. And also they put on these masks that make them look more humanoid. And honestly, it's super cool. Then Tulip sees her reflection, and her reflection steps out, but she is trapped in the car. And seeing MT get this close to getting her freedom and not being able to reach it is honestly really sad. You can tell that she is really beaten up about not being able to go where she wanted to. And it is a really well done scene. Tulip tells MT that she doesn't want anything bad to happen to her and she wants to help. But MT isn't buying it because she has reflected her whole entire life. And all Tulip does is just ignore people when they need help. So that's exactly what she is doing here. But Tulip tells her that if they switch back, she can help her get her freedom and get a new reflection. MT accepts and they switch places.
Hello, Miss Tulip. We're melting people. So, what's new with you?
Oh my gosh, that's gonna give me nightmares. Then after they switch back, one of the cops stays in the Mirror World while the other goes into the Prime World. They almost get caught, but luckily MT switches to the new reflection just in time, and the cops are left screaming in defeat. Also, I'm just noticing this now. When this cop goes after MT, he cuts her hair. She really just did get to that reflection, just in time. MT is finally a free person. Her life goal is now finally fulfilled. Now she can do whatever she wants with her life. Tulip tells her to come on, but she is gonna go her own way now. MT takes off her glove, saying that she doesn't need it, and neither does Tulip. They part ways, and then Tulip takes off her glove, and she sees that the number is 3, and the episode ends. This episode brings up so many questions, and it explains a whole new world to us. What will those mirror police do? There is no way they're just gonna give up and not go after MT anymore. Also, what will MT do? Is she going to live in a car? Is she going to have someone or a pet with her like Tulip has? She talks about being her own person, and she definitely won't be Tulip anymore, that's for sure. As said earlier, this episode does a great job of setting up the second season, and that's why this episode is really amazing. But it's also really good because, well, the writing is just really good, and it works all on its own. They do a great job of answering most of your questions in this episode, and it doesn't feel like this episode feels empty because it was going to be expanded on in book 2. They do a really good job with making sure this episode is a good episode on its own, and not just an episode to set up another season. Alright, get ready to get your heart broken because this next episode is sad. So you might be wondering, why the new background? And I only really have one explanation for that. And the reason is that this background is what my heart's like after I watch this episode. This episode is always the hardest to watch for me, but don't worry, I'll just cry after the video. This episode does something that you couldn't possibly expect, and on rewatches, the dread you feel is honestly hard to describe. The episode starts off with Tulip talking about how she is excited to go home. Atticus says, "Aren't you going to Oshkosh?" Tulip then explains that she has been on the train for way too long, and now Oshkosh is over. And now she just kind of wants to go home. Then they hear a voice in the distance, and it turns out it's a bunny named Khaki Bottoms. Khaki tells him that he has an artifact that needs to be returned to its home. The artifact is the Jiggle Wiggle. I love it. Tulip, Atticus, 1-1, and Khaki go through the play place. They return the Jiggle Wiggle to its rightful resting place, and as a reward, Khaki gives Tulip the Jiggle Wiggle. And the day is saved. Then, oh shoot, the killer robot's back. Apparently at the beginning of this episode, we could see the killer robot's shadow here, and I missed that until writing the script, so neat little detail. Tulip tells Khaki to hide while they go down the exit. Tulip and Atticus have to dodge a ton of the killer robot's arms. Then, the worst thing happens. Tulip drops the Jiggle Wiggle, and it lands onto the robot's arms. The robot instantly locates them, getting them out of the tube, and then Atticus saves Tulip's life here. Atticus tells Tulip that he will go and attack the killer robot. He dodges a ton of its attacks, and he gets the robot to hurt one of its arms. While Tulip is making a run for it, she gets caught and is about to be shot when it stops. Then we see this weird thing that appears at the end of the cat's car. It talks about how it would have been so much easier if they stayed on the train in one spot so it could find them easier.
Interfering with my plans, attacking my steward for months.
Oh, so that's the killer robot's name. Steward. Kinda cool. And it's revealed that the cat has tracked Tulip down, and Samantha's boss wants her to get 1-1. And Tulip tells 1-1 to run for it. And this thing has Steward destroy the play place 1-1 and the cat are in.
You killed my friends!
Let's talk about your friends. They didn't have to be here. They had a place on the train and you took them out of it.
They were trying to help me!
They were. And this is the result. All of this is your fault.
Of course, as a viewer, we know that this is not Tulip's fault. They offer to help her on a journey. But wow, this is a very impactful scene, and I am very terrified of this villain here. Then, Atticus sneak attacks, but they capture him.
Why should I listen to you?
Because I am the conductor.
Whoa, you're the conductor? No, why did you shoot the dog, you monster?
Atticus, hey, it's okay.
Oh no, that's weird. He's a cockroach dog thing now. Turns out, 1-1 is alive, which is not really a shock. Tulip ends up having to trap Atticus in this little thing here, and
It's okay to cry.
this ending is the most impactful ending of the first season of Infinity Train. Watching Atticus have to become this thing is honestly really cool, but super sad at the same time. It's done really well in the episode, especially now since you've had so much time with the characters, you got really attached to Atticus. And seeing him get turned to this thing, which I just found out this has a name, it's called a gome. So seeing him get turned to a gome is really hard to see. And I love what they do in the next episode. The next episode is my favorite of the season, so let's go on to that one. The past car starts right where it left off. Tulip takes Atticus's crown and starts to leave him behind. While she is opening the door, we hear Samantha's voice. She is asking Tulip for help once again. Tulip frees Samantha but doesn't want to talk to her. Then Samantha tells Tulip that she has the conductor's tape. Tulip agrees to watch the conductor's tape, but only if Samantha watches it first. Which she does, and then Tulip watches it. Ah, great. Tulip's in the white void again, and whoa. Somehow 1-1 got in the white void with him? Then Tulip, Samantha, and 1-1 go into a memory, and we see this kid named Alaric and his friend Amelia. It's a weird place to start, but what is interesting is that 1-1 rewinded a part of the memory he thought was funny. Then we see Amelia and Alaric at graduation, then calling for a taxi. Wow, that is one old TV. And Alaric pulls out the voice changer the conductor uses. Then we see Amelia propose to him, which he accepts. Oh, that's really cute. Tulip is annoyed that this tape is taking forever. Then 1-1 says, let's blow this joint, and then they're brought to either Alaric or Amelia crying. Apparently, one of them has died, and they are not taking it well. Tulip tries to go after them, but the conductor has made a tape where no one can go past a boundary. Tulip asks 1-1 to take him past the barrier, which he does. We get to see them at this building, but the top of it disappears. Then we see them about to go into the train, and then it's revealed it is Amelia. That means Amelia is the conductor, and she was a normal passenger on the train too. Samantha says that there is a conductor before Amelia, but Amelia overthrew that conductor. The tape ends, and Samantha shows Tulip that the cannons of the engine were repurposed into making Atticus into the Gome. Tulip is frustrated at Samantha because it would have been just so much faster if she just told her this. She doesn't want to feel bad for Amelia, because after all, she turned Atticus into a Gome. But she can't just do that. Amelia is hurt and running away from the changes in her life, and Tulip is doing the same. The moment she says that, her number goes all the way down to 0, and she gets her exit. But she can't just take it. She has to go to the engine and stop Amelia and turn Atticus back now. So Tulip uses her coding knowledge, and she uses Samantha's shuttlecraft as a controller, and it turns out this thing on the side does actually reappear. Totally forgot about this. They used the arm Atticus broke off as steward to put it together. Samantha sort of redeems herself and brings them to the engine. And then the episode ends. Wow, this episode does a really good job at humanizing the conductor. While none of her actions can be just simply forgiven, she's still a person who is dealing with losing someone very close to her. And in the few minutes we get to see with Amelia's past, it is truly sad what happened to her. That is a lot to deal with for anyone, and she just shut everyone out of her life and ran away from it all. Episode 9 is 100% my favorite episode of Season 1. Even though I didn't really have a whole lot to say about it this time, it is by far my favorite episode. Alright, let's go on to the finale of the season. The Engine is one of the many amazing finales that the series has. You can always count on a finale of an Infinity Train season to be the highlight of the season. The Engine starts with them arriving to the engine, and Tulip sees that Amelia is making new cars. Samantha says that the train is never complete. So that's why it's called the Infinity Train. That makes sense. Samantha decides that she's just not gonna go, so she leaves. Tulip goes to Atticus and won't leave him behind. She puts a wire around him and brings him with her. They arrive to the inside of the engine.
Do you think my mum is in there?
I sure hope so, 1-1. You've been looking for your mom all season. Tulip goes in calling Amelia. Amelia is confused why Tulip just hasn't taken her exit yet because her number is at 0.
Here to make a trade. I get Atticus back and you get your tape.
Well, now there is no going back with this plan. But Amelia has a backup plan, and she sends some sort of weird signal to Stewart, and Stewart starts to go help Amelia. Tulip finds the cannon and runs back to go get Atticus, but Stewart finds the TV and destroys it, freeing Amelia in the process. Amelia proceeds to send Tulip's exit so far down the train that she would die of old age before she found it. Hold up, is that Grace? And oh, Simon too? Wow, this is really cool. I didn't even know they appeared in this episode until looking at this just now. Then Tulip finds Atticus's wire, and she pulls it down, freeing Atticus. Good thing Atticus attacked the steward and not Tulip, or else she'd be in a huge problem. She then sends 1-1 to look for a way to stop Stewart and Amelia somehow. Tulip climbs back up with Amelia following her. Then Tulip hangs onto a tree and turtle swallow out of it. And then Amelia says,
Unbelievable. Again with the turtles.
whoa, Amelia's the one who made the unfinished car? What a twist. And this car has her college campus too. Amelia is trying to recreate her whole life that she had with Alaric, which is really sad that she's doing this, but really neat detail. Amelia tries to hit Tulip, but luckily she has her donut holder with her. Amelia tries to offer Tulip a car where her parents were happy and not divorced, so they could be one big happy family. But Tulip, knowing that they wouldn't be her real parents, declines this offer and breaks Amelia's little shell thing, and it reveals her face. Tulip starts knocking at the orbs. Then she sees the Corgi, and she thinks that she can find the Corgi orb and put it in the cannon, she can change Atticus back.
Just been trying to keep one at bay.
Wow, what an interesting story. I sure do hope that we get to see it one day.
Mom.
About time! Tulip gets the Corgi orb and misses some shots, but finally gets Atticus. But Tulip turns her back on her enemy, and now Amelia has her. But luckily, 1-1 goes into this little thing and finally finds his mom. Whoa! 1-1 has control of everything. Atticus breaks out of the Gome and destroying the steward in the process, so he did end up battling and defeating his monster. The new car Tulip and Amelia are in starts to move. Tulip makes it out and Amelia almost dies, but luckily they all make it out safe. Then finally, Atticus and Tulip reunite. She gives Atticus his crown back and they go to see 1-1, and he is now the true conductor. Amelia then reveals that she ripped 1 out because he refused to make a car for her, and he had all that power, and all she wanted to do was live her life with Alaric. Tulip then tells her while she doesn't know what it's like losing someone you love, she does know that they can't go back to how things were. Amelia is concerned that she'll never get off the train because apparently numbers can go up. Tulip lets her know that she can get her number down, no matter how high it is, and realizing this makes her number go down. Amelia then says that she can't get her door back, but luckily 1-1 can do that for them, which he does. I know that some people think that Amelia was forgiven too easily, but to me it makes perfect sense. She had no power, so it's not like she could do anything, and plus this is probably the first real human contact she's had in ages. So it kind of makes sense that she would start listening to Tulip, and she was probably just needing to hear this and have a reason to give up on wanting Alaric back, because that will sadly never happen for her, and now it's time for her to move on. But now, Tulip has to leave 1-1 and Atticus forever. She will never see them again, and this will be the final time that she gets to talk to them. Then, they have one final hug. She tells Amelia that she hopes she gets her number down one day, and then she goes back home. Then we have a time skip to 7 months later. It's been a full year since she originally boarded the train, and now she's getting to go to Oshkosh. She sees her dad and her mom, and her dad picks her up to go to the camp. She passes this mirror, which she does not have a reflection, which is really cool, and I love that detail. Then it ends with her dad asking if she's ready, in which she replies, "I'm ready for anything." And that is how book 1 ends. An amazing end to an amazing first season. Thank you all for watching this review. It is my longest video on my channel ever. I am going to do reviews for other stuff, including like the canceled book 5. I'm really looking forward to covering this series on my channel, and I hope you are too. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye, everyone.